In this video, we will take a deep dive into the movie Moana 2 2024. We will break down the summary, provide a clear and engaging plot summary, explore the cast and characters. In addition, we will look at the character production detail and analyze its box office performance. Finally, we will share reviews and personal reaction to give you a complete understanding of the movie. So let's get started. When we begin talking about Moana 2, it's important to slow down and appreciate why a film like this deserves attention in the first place. At a glance, it may seem like just another animated sequel created to follow the success of its predecessor. But if you look a little deeper at its genre, its direction, and its production style, you will realize here much more going on beneath the surface. First, let's consider the genre. Moana 2 sits comfortably within the space of animated adventure fantasy, but it also carries strong elements of musical storytelling. This combination is something that Walt Disney Animation Studios has mastered over decades. However, what makes this film worth discussing is how it attempts to expand that formula. Instead of simply repeating the structure of the first film, it leaned further into exploration and mythology. The ocean is no longer just a companion, it becomes a larger, more mysterious force. The fantasy element feels broader, almost hinting at a wider world beyond what we previously saw. Now, shifting to the direction, the film is led by Derek G, or a relatively fresh voice in feature length animation. This is significant when a new director steps into a well loved franchise. There is always a balance to strike, honoring the original while introducing something new. Derek approaches this with a noticeable sense of respect for Polynesian culture and storytelling tradition. His direction feels patient at times, following emotional beats to settle rather than rushing through them. This slower pacing, especially in character driven moments, gives the film a slightly different tone compared to the first movie. But where the films truly stand out is in its production style. Visually, Moana 2 continues Disney's tradition of pushing the boundaries of animation. The ocean, once again, is a highlight, but this time it feels even more dynamic and unpredictable. The lightning, the movement of water, and the scale of the environments all suggest a step forward in animation technology. It's not just about looking beautiful, it's about creating a world that feels alive and immersive. At the same time, the production's design stays rooted in cultural authenticity. The costume, tattoos, and island environment reflect useful research and attention to detail. This is something that made the original film stand out, and it remains a core strength here. The filmmaker clearly understands that representation is not just about visuals, it's about respect and storytelling integrity. Another aspect worth noting is how the musical elements integrates into the production style. While songs are still present, they feel slightly more woven into the narrative rather than standing apart as big set pieces. This subtitle shift may not be immediately obvious, but it changes how the stories flow. Instead of pausing the narrative, the music often carries it forward. The production budget of the Moana 2 can be best understood by looking at how large animated films are typically financed and managed. Estimate places the film's cost at around $150 million, which positions it within the standard range for major animated release from Walt Disney Animation Studios. This figure reflects a balance between maintaining high production quality and controlling expenses, especially for a sequels that already benefits from an established world and characters. A significant portion of this budget is allocated to creative talents, often referred to as above the line costs. This includes payments for voice actors such as Davian Johnson and Auli'i Cravalho, who, as well as the director Derek Jr. and the writing and the production team. High-profile actors can command substantial salaries, and their involvement often contribute to both the film's appeal and its financial structure. However, compared to live action films, voice acting typically represent a smaller share of the total cost, with the majority of the resources directed elsewhere. The largest share of the budget is devoted to animation and technical production. Computer generated animation is a highly resource intensive process that requires a large team of artists, animators, and engineers working over several years. In the case of this film, special attention is given to environmental elements such as the ocean, lightning, and atmospheric effects. These features demand advanced stimulation tools and rendering technologies which significantly increase cost. The goal is not only to achieve visual beauty but also to create a believable and immersive world that support the story. Another area of spending involves music and sound design. As a musical film, Moana to invest in original songs, vocal performances, orchestrations, and audio mixing. While this portion of the budget is smaller compared to animation, it remains an essential component because music plays a central role in shaping the film's emotional tone and audience engagement. An important factor influencing the budget is the film's development history. The project was initially conceived as a streaming series before being adopted into a full theatrical release. This shift likely required additional investment to upgrade the animation quality, expand the narrative, and meet the expectation of a cinematic audience. Such changes can increase cost, but they also enhance the film's overall production values. When compared to the similar animated film, the budget of Moana 2 appears consistent rather than excessive. The original Moana had a comparable cost, and many Disney or Pixar production fall within the 150 to 200 million dollar range. This indicates that the studio followed a controlled financial approach, avoiding unnecessary escalation while still delivering a high quality product. By reusing certain design elements and building upon existing technology, the production could maintain efficiency without compromising visual standard. From a financial perspective, a film with this level of investment typically need to earn at least twice its production budget to break even. Due to additional marketing and distribution expenses, Moana 2 surpasses this requirement by a wide margin, making it a commercially successful project. Overall, the budget reflects a carefully managed balance between creative ambition and financial discipline, demonstrating how modern animated sequels aim to maximize both artistic output and economic return. When discussing the genre and overall mood of this film, it becomes clear that the films operate within a familiar framework while also attempting to expand its emotional and stylistic range. At its core, the movie belongs to the animated adventure fantasy genre with strong elements of musical storytelling. This combination shapes not only what the film is about, but how it feels from moment to moment. The atmosphere of the film is deeply tied to its oceanic setting, much like its predecessor. The environment plays an active role in shaping the mood. The ocean is not just a backdrop, it feels alive, unpredictable, and sometimes even intimidating. This creates a layered atmosphere that shifts between calm beauty and looming danger. Peaceful island scenes are filled with warmth, color, and cultural richness, while the open sea introduces a sense of mystery and tension. These include help our dynamic emotional landscape, allow the audience to move between comfort and uncertainty. In terms of pacing, the film adopts a slightly more measured rhythm compared to many fast moving animated features. While there are still moments of action and urgency, the story often slows down to focus on character development and emotional reflection. This deliberate pacing gives space for quieter scenes where relationship and central conflict can unfold more naturally. However, the film also balances this with bursts of high energy sequence, particularly during encounter with natural forces or antagonistic elements. The result is a pacing structure that alternates between interceptions and excitement through a time. It may feel uneven depending on the viewer's expectation. The tone of the films lean toward a more mature and reflective direction than the original film, while it retains humor and light-hearted moments often through original interaction. It places greater emphasis on responsibility, identity, and legacy. Moana is no longer just discovering who she is. She is now facing the weight of leadership and the expectation of her people. This shift in tone introduces slightly more serious emotional underground. Their humor is still present, but it feels more subdued and integrated into the narrative rather than standing out as separate comedic beats. Stylistically, the film continues the tradition of Walt Disney Animation Studios by blending visual spectacle with cultural authenticity. The animation style is polished and detailed, with particular attention given to water physics, lighting, and environmental design. The ocean once again serves as a visual counterpiece rendered with a level of realism and fluidity that enhance immersion. At the same time, the film maintains stylized character design and expressive animation, ensuring that emotional storytelling remains at the forefront. Another important stylistic choice lies in the integration of music. As a musical, the film uses songs not only for entertainment but also as a narrative device. The transitions into musical sequence are generally smooth, helping to maintain the story flow rather than halting the narrative. Many songs feel like extensions of the characters' thoughts and emotions. This approach supports the film's overall mood by reinforcing the key themes and emotional beats without disrupting the pacing. The genre and the mood of the film reflect a balance between tradition and evolution. It stays rooted in the adventurous and fantastical elements that define Disney animation, while also exploring a slightly deeper and more contemplative tone. The atmosphere, pacing, and stylistic choices all work together to create a film that feels both familiar and expanded, offering audience a continuation of Mona's journey that is visually engaging and emotionally resonant. Before watching the film, audience expectations are shaped by a combination of nostalgia, studio reputation, and the evaluation standard of modern animated storytelling. These expectations are not uniform. They vary depending on viewers' demographic, familiarity with the original film, and the personal preferences within the adventure fantasy genre. For younger audience, especially children and early teens, expectations are often centered on entertainment value. They anticipate vibrant animation, catchy songs, humorous moments, and a clear, engaging storyline. Since the first Moana became a widely loved family film, many younger viewers expect a similar experience, colorful visuals, a relatable hero, and a memorable side characters. The presence of returning characters like Moana and Maui reinforcing these expectations as children often form strong attachment to familiar personalities. At the same time, this audience may not be overly concerned with narrative depth or thematic complexity. Their primary focus is enjoyment and emotional connection. In contrast, older viewers, including teenagers and adults, tend to approach the films with more layered expectations. Many of them grew up with the original movie or appreciated it for its cultural representation and emotional storytelling. As a result, they often expect the film to offer character growth and thematic progression rather than simply repeating the formula. There is an anticipation that Mona's journey will evolve from self discovery to leadership, responsibility, and identity. This group may also pay closer attention to how the story respects Polynesian culture and whether it maintains authenticity while expanding the narrative world. From the perspective of family audience, expectations are a blend of both simplicity and depth. Families generally look for films that can be enjoyed together, meaning the movie should balance humor for children with emotional or thematic substances for adults. In this sense, Moana 2 is expected to function as a multi layer experience, offering light-hearted adventure on the surface while carrying deeper messages underneath. Parents, in particularly, may also expect positive role models, moral lessons, and uplifting storytelling that align with family-friendly values. When considering anticipated themes, viewers often expect continuity with the original film's core ideas. Themes such as courage, identity, and connection to heritage are likely to return, but audience also anticipate expansion into new areas. There is a strong expectation that the sequel will explore legacy and responsibility, especially since the film is no longer a novice explorer but an experienced leader. This shift naturally lead viewers to expect a more mature emotional tone. Additionally, the idea of exploring unknown region of the ocean suggests themes of discovery, unity, and confronting larger challenges beyond personal growth. For the fan of the adventure and the fantasy genre, expectations are closely tied to world building and scale. These viewers often look for a sense of wonder, new location, mythical elements, and high stake conflict. The ocean setting provides a unique advantage as it allows for endless possibilities in terms of visuals and narrative expansion. Fan of the genre may expect more complex obstacles, stronger antagonistic forces, and a broader mythology compared to the first film. At the same time, they may also hope for a balance between spectacle and storytelling, where visual grandeur support rather than overshadow the narrative. Another important factor shaping expectation is the reputation of Walt Disney Animation Studios. Disney has a long standing history of producing large quality animated film, but this legacy creates a baseline expectation of excellence. Viewers often assume a certain level of polish in animation, music, and storytelling. However, this reputation can also raise the bar significantly, leading to more critical evaluation if the film does not meet those standards. In the case of a sequel, the challenge becomes even greater as audience naturally compare it to the original. There is also a degree of cautious anticipation surrounding sequels in general. Some viewers approach the film with excitement, expecting it to build meaningfully on the first film, while others remain skeptical, concerned that it may rely too heavily on familiar elements without offering enough innovation. This mix of optimism and caution is common for follow up films, particularly when the original was highly successful. Ultimately, audience expectations for the film are shaped by a desire for both familiarity and growth. Viewers want to revisit a world they already love, but they also expect that world to feel expanded and enriched, whether it is thorough, deeper themes in enhanced visuals or a more mature narrative tone. The anticipation lies in seeing how the film balances continuity with evaluation. When examining the target audience of the film, it becomes clear that the film is designed to appeal to a broad yet carefully structured group of viewers. Like many productions from Walt Disney Animation Studios, it is not limited to a single demographic. Instead, it is crafted to engage multiple age groups simultaneously, each with different expectation, interest, and a level of emotional engagement. In terms of age group, the primary audience includes children between the age of 6 and 12. This is the core demographic for most animated adventure films, and Moana too clearly aligns with their preferences. The colorful animations, expressive character, and straightforward narrative structure make it easy for younger viewers to follow. The presence of humor, music, and visually engaging sequence ensure that children remain entertained throughout the film. Additionally, the central character of the film serves as a relatable and inspiring figure for this age group, particularly for those who enjoy stories about courage and exploration. At the same time, the film strongly targets family audience, which expand its reach to parents and older siblings. This dual layer approach is a hallmark of the Disney storytelling. While children engage with the surface level adventure, adults are offered deeper emotional and thematic elements. Themes such as responsibility, leadership, cultural identity resonate more strongly with mature viewer. This makes the film suitable for shared viewing experience where different members of the film can connect with different aspects of the story. The tone remains accessible enough for younger viewers while still providing meaningful content for adults. The film also appealed to teenagers and young adults, particularly those who grew up watching the original film. For this group, the film carries a sense of continuity and nostalgia. They are likely to appreciate the evolution of the main character as her journey shifts from self discovery to leadership and responsibility. This progression mirrors the personal growth of the audience itself, making the films more relatable on an emotional level. Teen viewers may also be more attentive to character development, world building, and the overall narrative structure. Looking at interest, the movie is clearly designed for viewers who enjoy adventure, fantasy, and musical storytelling. The ocean based setting combined with mythological elements create a sense of wonder that appeal to those who are drawn to imaginative world. Viewers who enjoy exploration, quest, and journey to the unknown will find the films particularly engaging. The inclusion of musical elements further broadens its appeal, attracting audience who appreciate strong as the storytelling advice. While the musical aspect may be more appealing to younger viewers and families, it also contributes to the emotional tone of the film, making it accessible to a wider audience. Another key interest group include viewers who value cultural representation and storytelling. The film continued to draw inspiration from Polynesian tradition, and this aspect can attract audience who are interested in diverse narrative and cultural authenticity. While the film is still a mainstream animated production, it efforts to incorporate cultural elements add an additional layer of appeal for viewers seeking meaningful and respectful representation. In terms of genre preferences, the film is particularly suited for fans of animated adventure and fantasy film. These viewers typically look for immersive world, engaging character, and sense of emotional progression. The films deliver on these expectations through its combination of visual spectacle and character-driven storytelling. Fan of the original movie are, of course, a key part of the target audience. Their familiarity with the characters and the setting create an immediate connection, making them more likely to engage with the sequel. However, the film may be less appealing to viewers who prefer fast-paced, action-heavy narratives without musical interruptions. While it does include moments of excitement and tension, its pacing often allows for emotional reflection and character development. Similarly, viewers who are not interested in animated films or family-oriented storytelling may find it less engaging. The tone remains firmly with the realm of accessible, family friendly entertainment, which may not align with all preferences. The target audience of the film can be described as broad but intentional. It is primarily made for children and family, while also extended its appeal to teenager and adult through deeper themes and a character growth. By combining adventure, fantasy, and musical elements, the film positions itself as a multi-generational experience. This wide-ranging appeal is a defining feature of the Disney approach, ensuring that the movie can be enjoyed by viewers with different taste, expectation, and the level of emotional maturity. When considering the emotional experience promised by the film, it becomes clear that the film is designed to take viewers on a careful, balanced journey of reflection, feeling, and inspiration. Much like its predecessor, it does not rely on a single emotional tone. Instead, it weaves together moments of warmth, tension, joy, and introspection to create a layered and engaging experience. Starting with mood, the film establishes a sense of calm familiarity before gradually expanded into something more intense and uncertain. The early moments are likely to feel comforting, filled with the warmth of island life, family bonds, and a cultural connection. This creates an emotional anchor for the audience, grounding them in a sense of belonging. However, as the story progresses and the Mona venture into unknown water, the mood shifts toward curiosity and unease. The ocean becomes more unpredictable and the stakes feel higher. This contrast between safety and danger play a key role in shaping the viewer's emotional engagement, allowing them to experience both reassurance and suspense. At the same time, the films maintain an undercurrent of hope and determination even during its more intense or uncertain moment. It avoids becoming overly dark or heavy. This is consistent with the storytelling approach of Walt Disney Animation Studios, where emotional challenges are balanced with optimism. The mood therefore remains accessible to a wide audience, ensuring that viewers can engage with the story without feeling overwhelmed. In terms of themes, the films build upon ideas introduced into the original films while expanding them into more mature territory. One of the central themes is responsibility. Mona is no longer simply discovering who she is now responsible for the well being of her people. This shift introduces a deeper emotional layer as her decisions carry greater weight. The audience is invited to share in this sense of responsibility, experiencing both the pressure and the pride that come with leadership. Another key theme is connection both to heritage and to other. The film emphasizes the importance of understanding one roots while also embracing new relationship and experience. This theme is often expressed through interactions with family and ancestors and companions on the journey. It creates a sense of continuity, reminding viewers that personal growth does not happen in isolation but is shaped by continuity in history. The theme of exploration and self discovery remain present, but it is approached from a different angle. Instead of asking, "Who am I?" the story leans more toward, "What kind of leaders will I become?" This evaluation allows the film to resonate with older viewers while still being accessible to younger audience. It encourages reflection without becoming overly complex, maintaining a balance that is central to its emotional appeal. Looking at the intended impact, the film aimed to leave viewers with a sense of inspiration and emotional uplift. It is designed to encourage confidence, resilience, and a willingness to face challenges. By watching the movie navigate uncertainty and overcome obstacles, audience are made to feel empowered in their own lives. This is particularly important for younger viewers who often look to characters like Moana as a role model. At the same time, the film seeks to create moments of emotional resonance that linger beyond the viewing experience. Scenes involving family, legacy, and personal choices are likely to evoke feeling of empathy and reflection. These moments are not necessarily dramatic or overwhelming. Instead, they are subtitled and sincere, allowing viewer to connect with the story on a personal level. The inclusion of music also play a crucial role in shaping the emotional experience. Songs are used to amplify feeling, whether it is joy, longing, or determination, rather than interrupting the narrative. They enhances providing emotional clarity and depth. This integration of music help guide the audience emotional journey, making transition between different mood feel natural and cohesive. Overall, the film promises an emotional experience that is dynamic yet reassuring. It offers moment of excitement and tension, placed with warmth and optimism through its theme of responsibility, connection, and growth. It aims to engage viewers not only as spectators but as participants in an emotional journey. The result is a film that seeks to inspire while also providing comfort, creating an experience that feels both meaningful and enjoyable. At its core, the Moana 2 is less concerned with the external journey across the ocean and more invested in the internal evaluation of purpose, identity, and responsibility. The film operates with a familiar mythic framework, yet its deeper idea is not about adventure itself but about what happened after the adventure, the moment when discovery transforms into duty. One of the central themes underlying the film is the transition from self discovery to self definition. When many stories focus on finding one's place in the world, this narrative shift toward defining what that place means, what it has been found. It suggests that identity is not a fixed endpoint but an ongoing process shaped by choices, obligations, and relationships. The protagonist is no longer asking who she is, instead, she is confronting what her identity demands of her. This subtitle but important shift reflect a more mature philosophical stance, one that acknowledges that growth does not end with realization, it brings there. Closely tied to this is the theme of responsibility as a form of connection. Responsibility in the film is not portrayed as a burden imposed from the outside but as something that emerges naturally from belonging. To care for others, to lead, and to protect is framed not as surface alone but as an extension of identity. This idea transforms leadership into something rational rather than hierarchical. It suggests that true leadership is not about control or authority but about maintaining harmony between the self, the community, and the larger world. Another important thematic layer is the concept of inheritance and continuity. The film explored the idea that individuals are a part of a larger chain connected to ancestors, cultures, and collective memory. This connection is not static, it evolves as each generation interrupts, redefine what it has inherited. The story concept implies that honoring the past does not mean expropriating it exactly, but rather carrying its essence forward in new and meaningful way. In this sense, the film engages with the tension between preservation and change, suggesting both are necessary for growth. The message of the film can also be best understood through its exploration of uncertainty. Rather than presenting the unknown as something purely threatening, the narrative frame It has a space of responsibility. The ocean as a symbolic element represents this duality. It is both a source of life and a domain of unpredictability. Engaging with the unknown because an act of courage, not because it guaranteed success, but because it reflects a willingness to move forward despite incomplete understanding. This idea resonates on a broader level, encouraging viewers to embrace uncertainty as a natural and necessary part of growth. In addition, the film engages with the theme of balance between independence and interdependence. While the idea of individual strength remains important, it is consistently placed within the context of relationship. The story suggests that true strength is not isolated, it is supported and amplified by others. This perspective challenges the notion of the solitary hero, replacing it with a more collective understanding of achievement. Success is not depicted as a singular accomplishment, but as something shared and sustained through cooperation. From a conceptual standpoint, the film also reflects on the idea of scale, both personal and universal. On one level, it deals with intimate emotions such as doubt, determination, and belonging. On another level, it gestures toward larger forces including nature, tradition, and the passage of time. By moving between these scales, the narrative creates a sense that individual action are part of a much broader system. This interconnectedness reinforces the idea that personal choices carry wider implications even if they are not immediately visible. Stylistically, this core idea is supported by the storytelling approach often associated with Walt Disney Animation Studios, where emotional clarity and thematic accessibility are prioritized. The film communicates its idea in a way that is approachable without being simplistic. It allows viewers to different ages to engage with the same theme at varying level of depth, making the experience both inclusive and reflective. Ultimately, the concept of the film revolves around the idea that growth is not a single journey but a continuous cycle. Discovery lead to responsibility, responsibility lead to change, and change lead to a new form of understanding. The film message is not about reaching a final destination but about embracing the ongoing process of becoming. It suggests that identity, leadership, and the connection are not static achievement but living dynamics that evolve over time. In this way, Moana 2 positions itself as a narrative about continuity rather than conclusive. It invites viewers to consider not just where they are going, but how their journey is shaped by the world around them. The core idea, therefore, is not confined through the boundaries of the story. It extends outward, encouraging reflection on the nature of growth, responsibility, and the ever-changing relationship between the individual and the collective. At the heart of the film lies a central conflict that is less about simple opposition between good and evil and more about a tension between duty, desire, certainty, uncertainty, and individuality and responsibility. Rather than focusing purely on external obstacle, the film frame its conflict as something deeply internal, shaped by moral dilemmas and evolving expectations. One of the most prominent aspects of this conflict is the moral dilemma of responsibility versus personal freedom. The protagonist is no longer in a position where she can act slowly based on instinct or curiosity. Instead, her role demands accountability not just for herself but for others who depend on her. This creates a tension between what she may want to do as an individual and what she feels obligated to do as a leader. The conflict here is not a result of simple choices, it's an ongoing negotiation between competing values. The idea that every decision carry weight and a layer of seriousness, making every choice feel significant. Closely connected to this is the challenge of navigating uncertainty. The film presents a world where answers are not always clear and where the path forward can't be easily predicted. This uncertainty becomes a source of tension not because it is inherently negative but because it requires trust both in oneself and in forces that can't be fully controlled. The central conflict in this case becomes a question of how to move forward when clarity is absent. It asks whether confidence should come from knowledge and from the willingness to act despite not knowing. Another important dimension of the conflict is the tension between tradition and change. The story places value on heritage, culture, idea, and the wisdom of those who came before. At the same time, it recognizes that generation must reinterpret these traditions in order to address new challenges. This creates a subtitle but persistent conflict: how to honor the past without being constrained by it. The protagonist must grapple with the expectation, try to tradition, while also recognizing that adaptation is necessary for survival and growth. This balance is not easily achieved and it forms a key source of internal and external pressure. The film also explored the challenge of leadership as a moral burden. Leadership is not depicted as a position of power alone but as a role that requires constant ethical consideration. Every decision has a consequence and those consequences extend beyond the individual. This creates a sense of tension that is rooted in responsibility rather than fear. The central question becomes not just what is the right choice, but what is the right choice for everyone involved. This shift in perspective complicates the conflict as it forces the protagonist to think beyond personal perspective and consider the broader impact of her action. In addition, there is a recurring tension between control and acceptance. The natural world, often symbolized by the ocean, represents force that can't be fully mastered. This introduces a philosophical layer to the conflict, the realization that not everything can't be controlled, and that sometimes the appropriate response is to adopt rather than resist. This idea challenges the notion of dominance over one's environment, replacing it with a more balanced relationship. The conflict, therefore, is not about overcoming nature but about understanding one's place within it. From a broader perspective, the central conflict also reflects the struggle between individual identity and collective belonging. The protagonist must reconcile her personal sense of self with the role she played within her community. This is not a straightforward alignment. At times, personal instinct may conflict with collective need. The tension arises from the need to integrate between these two aspects rather than choosing one over the other. The film suggests that true resolution comes from finding harmony between individuality and connection rather than prioritizing one at the expense of the other. Stylistically, this layer conflict aligns with the storytelling approach often associated with Walt Disney Animation Studios, where complex ideas are presented in an accessible and emotionally engaging way. The conflict is not overly abstract, yet it carries enough depth to resonate with different audiences on different levels. Younger viewers may interrupt at it as a struggle between right and wrong, while older viewers may recognize the more nuanced ethical question embedded within it. Ultimately, the central conflict of the film is defined by its multiplicity. It is not a single problem to be solved, but a network of tension that intersect and influence one another. Moral dilemmas, personal challenges, and broader philosophical questions all contribute to a sense of ongoing struggle. The film does not suggest that these conflicts can be completely resolved. Instead, it presents them as part of the human experience. Growth comes not from eliminating conflict but from learning how to navigate it with awareness, empathy, and resilience. In this way, the film's central conflict extends beyond its narrative framework and into a more universal space. It reflects the complexity of making choices, carrying responsibility, and adapting to change. By focusing on these deeper tension, Moana to offer a conflict that is not only engaging but also reflective of real world challenges, making it resonate on both an emotional and philosophical level. The thematic landscape of the film is built on combination of ethical reflection, emotional growth, and cultural awareness. Rather than focusing on a single message, the film explores a network of interconnected ideas that shape both the character and the world they inhabit. These themes operate on multiple levels, allowing different audiences to engage with the story in ways that feel meaningful to them. One of the most prominent areas the film engage, which is ethical question, particularly those surrounding responsibility and decision making. The narrative raises the idea that doing the right thing is not always straightforward. Choices are rarely presented as clearly good or bad, instead, they often involve trade offs. This introduces a moral complexity where intention, consequence, and obligation must all be considered at once. The film encourages viewers to think about how the scene affects not just the individual but the wider community. It subtly asks whether responsibility should be guided by personal belief, collective need, or a balance of both. These ethical tensions create a thoughtful layer beneath the surface of the story, inviting reflection rather than offering simple answer. Closely tied to these ethical considerations is the theme of accountability. Actions are shown to have consequences that extend beyond immediate outcome. This reinforces the idea that leadership and influence come with a moral weight. The film does not treat responsibility as a burden alone, but as an integral part of connection, suggesting that being accountable to others is a natural extension of belonging. This perspective shifts the focus from individual success to shared well being, highlighting the importance of considering others in every situation. The film also places strong emphasis on emotional arc, particularly those related to growth, self awareness, and resilience. Characters are not static, they evolve through their experience, learning to navigate uncertainty and internal conflict. One key emotional thread is the movement from confidence to doubt and back again. This cycle reflects a realistic portrayal of growth where progress is not linear. Moments of uncertainty are not framed as failure but as necessary step in understanding oneself more deeply. The audience is encouraged to see vulnerability as part of strength rather than a weakness. Another emotional theme is connection and belonging. Relationship, whether with family, community, or companion, play a central role in shaping the character's journey. The film emphasizes that identity is not formed in isolation. Instead, it is influenced by the people and environment that surround us. This creates a sense of emotional continuity where personal growth is intertwined with collective experience. The idea of belonging is presenting not as something stated but as something that evolves alongside the individual. In addition to ethical and emotional dimensions, the film engages deeply with cultural topics which form a foundational aspect of its identity. Drawing inspiration from Polynesian traditions, the story reflects values such as respect for nature, the importance of ancestry, and the interconnectedness of all living things. These cultural elements are not treated as a decorative, they are integrated into the film's thematic core. The relationship between people and the natural world, for example, is portrayed as one of balance rather than control. This perspective challenges more conventional narrative that emphasize dominance over nature, reflecting instead a worldview based on harmony and mutual respect. The theme of heritage and legacy is particularly significant. The film explored how individuals relate to the past and how traditions are preserved, adopted, and passed on. It raises the question of what it means to honor one's root while also moving forward. This creates a dynamic tension between continuity and change. The message is not about choosing one over the other, but about finding ways to integrate both. In doing so, the film acknowledges that culture is not fixed, it is something that lives and evolves through each generation. Another culture aspect involves the idea of collective identity. The story emphasizes that individuals are a part of a larger whole, connected through shared history and values. This contrasts with more individualistic narrative, highlighting instead the importance of community and cooperation. Success is not portrayed as a solitary achievement, but as something that emerges from collaboration and mutual support. This reinforces the film's broader message about interconnectedness through socially and environmentally. Stylistically, these themes are presented in a way that align with the storytelling approach of Walt Disney and the most importantly animation studios, where complex ideas are made accessible through emotional clarity and visually storytelling. The film does not rely on heavy exposition to communicate its theme. Instead, it allows them to emerge naturally through character interaction, symbolic element, and the overall tone. The theme explored in this film revolve around the idea of balance between self and other, past and future, control and acceptance. By weaving together ethical question, emotional arcs, and cultural topics, the film creates a rich thematic experience that resonates on multiple levels. It encourages viewers to reflect not only on the story itself but on their own relationship, responsibilities, and place with the larger world. The emotional connection created by the film is built not through complex storytelling alone but through emotionally balanced combination of more thematic depth and a viewing experience that feel both personal and universal. The film does not rely on dramatic intensity at every moment. Instead, it gradually draws the audience in, allowing emotions to develop naturally to resonate over time. One of the key way the film connect with viewer is through its mood. This shift gently through between comfort and uncertainty. The opening emotional tone feel warm and grounded, creating a sense of familiarity that invite the audience into the world without residence. This warmth is important because it establishes truth. Viewers feel safe and emotionally open, which makes them more receptive to the deeper layers that follow. As the mood evolves, it introduces elements of tension and interception, but it never fully abandons that initial sense of reassurance. This balance allows the audience to express emotional variation without feeling overwhelmed. The film's use of mood is also closely tied to its pacing. Instead of rushing from one emotional beat to another, it allows moment of breath, quiet scenes, reflective pauses, and subtitle expression play a significant role in shaping how viewers feel. These moments give the audience time to process emotion, making the experience feel more authentic rather than being told what to feel. Viewers are guided toward it through atmosphere and tone. This approach creates a deeper emotional engagement because it respects the audience's ability to interpret and connect on their own terms. The themes explored in the film, further strengthen this emotional connection. Ideas such as responsibility, belonging, and personal growth are not presenting as abstract concepts. They are framed in ways that mirror real life experience. Many viewers can relate to the feeling of being expected to take more on more than initially feel prepared for. This sense of expression pressure combined with the desire to do what is right create an emotional tension that feels familiar. It reflects common human experience, making the story accessible even to those who may not typically engage with animated fantasy. Another important thematic element is the idea of connection to people, to heritage, and to oneself. The film emphasizes that identity is shaped through relationship, and this resonates strongly with the audience, whether it is the bond between family member, the influence of cultural root, or the sport of companion. These connections create an emotional foundation that viewers can recognize in their own life. The story suggests that no one grows alone, and this idea fosters a sense of empathy and shared experience. The theme of uncertainty also play a crucial role in shaping the building of emotional depth rather than presenting challenges are clear and predictable. The film embraced the idea that not all answers are immediately available. This uncertainty can create a sense of vulnerability both for the characters and for the audience. However, it is this vulnerability that make the emotional experience more impactful. Viewers are not simply observing confidence, they are witnessing the progress of finding it. This journey from down to determination feels genuine, and it encourages the audience to reflect on their own moment of uncertainty. From a viewer experience perspective, the film is designed to engage audience across different age of group and emotional sensitivities. Younger viewers may connect with the story through its visual beauty and straightforward emotional cues, while older viewers may find meaning in its more subtitle and reflective elements, while old viewers may find meaning it in more subtle and reflective elements. This layer approach ensures that the emotional connection is not limiting to a single interpretation. Instead, it involves depending on the viewer's perspective, making the experience feel personal. Music and visual storytelling also contribute significantly to this connection. The emotional tone of scenes is often reinforced through sound and imagery rather than dialogue tone. This creates a more immersive experience where feelings are conveyed through multiple challenge at one. The audience is not just hearing the story, they are feeling it through rhythm, color, and movement. This sensory engagement deepens the emotional impact, making key moments more memorable. The storytelling style associated with Walt Disney Animation Studios play an important role in shaping this experience. The studio approach emphasizes clarity of motion and accessibility, ensuring that the film's themes are easy to understand without being overly simplistic. This balance allows viewers to connect with the story regardless of their background or familiarity with the genre. Ultimately, the emotional connection of Moana 2 comes from the ability to reflect universal human experience within a visually rich and culturally grounded framework. It does not rely on extreme drama or constant intensity. Instead, it built a steady emotional rhythm that draw viewers in and keep them engaged. By combining a carefully managed mood, relatable themes, and inclusive viewer experience, the film create a connection that feel both immediate and lasting. The character work feels grounded in continuity while still allowing room for growth. Rather than reinviting personalities, the films built upon what audience already know, given the main character clearer emotional direction and maturity. From a viewer perspective, this approach creates a familiarity but also raises expectation for deeper development. At the center is Mona, who represent the evolving leadership archetype. Her personality is defined by determination, empathy, and a strong sense of responsibility. What makes her stand out in this sequence is not just her courage but her awareness of consequence. She is more thoughtful and measured than before, showing a shift from curiosity driven action to responsibility driven decision. This add emotional weight to her character. As a viewer, one could say she carries the film seriousness, acting as emotional anchor. Her growth feels natural through at time. It lean more towards stability than transformation, which may feel stable rather than dramatic. Alongside her is Moai, who fits the trickster mentor archetype. His personality trait, confidence, humor, and charm remain intact, making him an entertainment and familiar presence. However, beneath his bold exterior, there is a quieter sense of self awareness. He provides contrast to Mona's grounded nature, often lightening the tone while also challenging her perspective. From a critical standpoint, Mona's work effectively as both comic relief and thematic support through his role feels slightly more restrained compared to his larger presence in the first time. Among the supporting characters, Sina and the chef Tui continue to represent the family and the guidance archetype. Their personalities are rooted in care, protection, and tradition. They symbolize emotional grounding and cultural continuity, reinforcing Mona's connection to her home and identity. While her roles are not dominant, they contribute to the film's emotional depth by reminding viewers of the importance of belonging and sport system. The newer editions such as Lotto, Moni and Keely reflect variation of the companion archetype. Each brings a different personality dynamic, whether it is curiosity, caution or enthusiasm. These characters help expand the group dynamic, make the journey feel more collaborative. From a reviewer perspective, they add energy and diversity to interaction, though they may not receive enough depth individually to leave a strong, lasting impression. Another important presence is the influence of ancestral kindness, often symbolized through spiritual legacy driven element rather than a single dominant character. This aligns with the guide or legacy archetype, representing wisdom, tradition, and continuity. These elements are less about personality and more about meaning. They serve as reminder of identity and purpose rather than active participant in the story. Overall, the characters in this film are shaped by balance rather than contrast. Monas provide emotional depth and responsibility. Monai brings energy and humor, and the supporting cast reinforce themes of connection and community. From a reviewer point of view, the film succeeds in maintaining strong, recognizable personalities while allowing for gradual growth. However, the emphasis on consistency over bold development may leave some viewer wanting more dramatic character evaluation. In this film, the acting performances rely entirely on voice work, yet they carry a surprising amount of emotional weight. Animating film often depend on exaggeration and energy, but here the performance feel more controlled and expressive, allowing emotions to come through in subtitle layer way. From our reviewer perspective, the strength of the film lies not just in what is said but in how it is delivered, the tone, rhythm, and emotional sincerity behind each line. Focusing on the lead actors, uh, Eloi Caravolho deliver a performance that feels noticeably more mature compared to her earlier portrayal of Mona. Her voice carries a sense of calm confidence but also an underlying vulnerability that reflects the character's growing responsibilities. A quiet strength in her delivery. She does not rely on dramatic intensity to communicate emotion. Instead, she uses softness, pauses, and control expression to convey internal conflict and determination. This creates a performances that feel grounded and authentic. As a reviewer, one might say that her voice work mirrors the film's emotional tone, steady, reflective, and quietly powerful. Alongside her, Davian Johnson brings back his signature energy to the role of Moe. His performance is naturally charismatic, filled with humor and confidence, but what stands out this time is a slightly more restrained approach. While he still delivers moments of boldness and charm, there is a subtitle shift toward a more balanced emotional range. His comedic timing remains sharp, but it feels less dominant, allowing space for more senior and reflective moments. This adjustment helps his performance blend more seamlessly with the film's overall tone. From an emotional standpoint, he provides contrast without overwhelming the narrative. Looking at the supporting cast performances from actors such as Nicole Sheher Singer and Timora Morrison add warmth and emotional grounding. Their voice work is not as prominent, but it plays an essential role in reinforcing the film's theme of family and connection. There is a sense of sincerity in their delivery that help anchor the more fantastical element of the story. Their performance feels natural and reassuring, contributing to the emotional stability of the films without drawing too much attention away from the lead. The newer addition to the cast also bring fresh energy, though their impact varies. Their performances tend to focus on creating distinct personalities through tone and delivery rather than deep emotional exploration. This works well in maintaining variety and keep the dialogue engaging, but from a reviewer point of view, this character may not leave as strong an emotional impression as the central figure. Still, they contribute to the overall atmosphere, adding layer of interaction that make the world feel more populated and alive. One of the most important aspects of the film's acting is the chemistry between the lead. The dynamic between Cravalho and Johnson remain one of the film's strongest elements. Their voice complement each other in a way that feels natural and balanced, where one brings steadiness and introspection, the other brings energy and spontaneity. This contrast create a rhythm in their interaction that keep the dialogue engaging and emotionally resonant. Even without visual cues, their vocal interplay convey a sense of familiarity and mutual understanding which strengthens the audience connection to their relationship. Emotionally, the performance succeed because they avoid extreme. There is no over reliance on loud or exaggerated expression. Instead, the actor lean into control emotional delivery, allowing quieter moment to carry just as much weight as more expressive one. This approach aligns with the film's overall mood, which favor reflection over intensity. It also makes the emotional experience feel more genuine as the performance mirror real human response rather than heightened dramatization. And other noteworthy element is how the voice acting integrate with the film's musical aspect. Singing performances require a different kind of emotional expression, and the transition between spoken dialogue and music feels smooth. The actor maintain consistency in tone, ensuring that the emotional arc is not disrupting when moving into song. This continuity helps sustain the viewer engagement, making the performance feel cohesive across different formats. Overall, the acting performances Moana 2 can be described as emotionally restrained yet effective. The lead actor carried the film with confidence and subtlety, and the chemistry between the characters enhanced the overall experience. From a reviewer standpoint, the film succeeds in delivering performance that feels sincere and well balanced, even if they do not push into highly dramatic territory. The result is an emotional tone that feels consistent, accessible, and quietly impactful. When examining realism and character depth in this film, it's important to recognize that the film operates with a fantastical animated framework while still striving for emotional authenticity. Realism here is not about literal accuracy but about whether the character feels psychologically believable, whether their thoughts, reactions, and the growth reflect recognizable human experience. Focusing first on character development, the films take a restrained and continue driven approach rather than presenting drastic transformation. It built upon pre-established personalities and allow growth to emerge gradually. Mona, for instance, is shaped by a stronger sense of responsibility and awareness compared to her earlier portrait. Her development feels less like a dramatic arc and more like a progression, an extension of traits that were already present. The subtitle evaluation add a layer of realism as real personal growth often occur incrementally rather than through sudden change. However, from a critical perspective, this approach may feel understated for viewer expecting a more pronounced shift. In contrast, Maui reflect a different kind of development, one that is less about change and more about refinement. His defining traits such as confidence and humor remain largely consistent, but there is a noticeably softening in how they are expressed. This creates a sense of internal adjustment rather than overt transformation. From a realism standpoint, this work because it mirrors how individuals often evolve without losing their core identity. At the same time, it can give the impression but that his character is more stating depending on how one interprets subtitly in performance. When considering believability, the film succeeds in making its character feel emotionally grounded despite the fantastical setting. The challenges that face may be larger than life, but their emotional response are relatable. Feelings such as doubt, responsibility, and the need for connection are presenting in way that align with real human behavior. This is where the influence of Walt Disney Animation Studios becomes evident, as the studios often prioritize emotional clarity and accessibility. The character communicate their inner states in a way that is easy to understand, which strengthen their believability for a wide audience. However, this clarity can also limit complexity. The films tend to favor straightforward emotional expression over ambiguity. While this makes the character more accessible, it can reduce the sense of unpredictability that often defines deeper, more nuanced portrait. From a reviewer standpoint, the character feels sincere and consistent, but not necessarily layered in a way that invites multiple interpretations. Their motivations are clear, their emotional responses are logical, and their development follows a steady path. Looking at emotional range, the films offer a balanced but controlled spectrum. The character experience a variety of emotion, confidence, uncertainty, determination, and connection, but these are presenting within a relatively narrow tonal framework. Extreme emotional highs or lows are softened, creating a more stable and cohesive experience. Mona, for example, express vulnerability without losing composure, while Monai balances humor with moment of sincerity. This contrast emotional range contribute to the film's overall tone, which lean toward reflection rather than intensity. The supporting character also play a key role in shaping this emotional landscape. Figures like Sienna and Shiftoy reinforce themes of care and stability, providing emotional grounding without introducing significant conflict. Their presence add to the sense of realism by reflecting familiar family dynamics, through their depth remain limited. They function more as emotional anchor than as fully developed individual. Another aspect of realism lies in how the film handle interpersonal relationship interaction between character feel natural and consistent, with dialogue and tone reflecting mutual understanding rather than consistent tension. This creates a sense of authenticity in relationship even if it reduces dramatic complexity. The emphasis is on harmony and cooperation, which align with the film's broader thematic focus on connection and balance. Ultimately, the realism and the depth of the film come from its commitment to the emotional authenticity over narrative complexity. The characters are believable because their feelings and motivation align with real human experience, even with a fantastical world. Their development is gradual, their emotion range is controlled, and their interaction are grounded in sincerity. From a reviewer perspective, this results in character that feel genuine, approachable, perhaps not deeply complex. The film prioritizes clarity and relatability, ensuring that its emotional core remain accessible while still offering enough depth to engage a thoughtful audience. The production budget of the film can be understood as part of a broader pattern in high-end animated filmmaking, where costs are driven less by physical logistics and more by time, labor, and technological complexity. Estimates place the film within a cost range of approximately $150 million to $180 million, which align it with other major releases from the Walt Disney Animation Studio. This range suggests a controlled but substantial investment, reflecting both the expectations attached to well-known property and technical demand of modern animation. From an analytical standpoint, this budget range is neither unusually high nor conservative when compared to industry standard. Animated features at this level typically fall within a similar financial bracket, particularly those involving extensive world building and musical components. The costs reflect not just the scale of the project but also the refinement required to meet audience expectations for visual quality and storytelling consistency. A significant portion of the budget is directed toward resource allocation in animation and technical production, which represent the core expenses in the film of this type. Unlike live action production, where costs are often tied to location, sets, and physical equipment, animated films rely heavily on digital infrastructure. This includes large team of animators, modelers, lighting specialists, and software engineers working over extended production timeline. In the case of the Moana 2, particular emphasis is placed on environmental details, especially water stimulation, lighting effects, and atmospheric rendering. These elements require advanced tools and repeated reconfinement contributed significantly to the overall cost. Another key area of allocation involves creative talent, include voice actors, directors, writer, and producer, while voice acting generally represent a smaller percentage of the budget compared to animation. High-profile performers can still command notable fees. The involvement of the established actor add both financial weight and marketing value, making it a strategic investment rather than a purely creative one. The film also dedicates resources to its musical component, which are an integral part of its identity. Budget consideration here include songwriting, vocal recording, or orchestrations and sound design. Although this category does not dominate the budget, it plays a crucial role in shaping the film's emotional and commercial appeal. Music and animated film often extend beyond the screen, contributing to streaming, merchandising, and overall brand visibility. An additional factor influencing the budget is the film's development process. Projects that undergo structural changes such as shift in format or scope often require reallocation of resources, adjustment in narrative structure, visual quality, or production scale can lead to incremental cost increase even if the overall budget remain within a planned range. This kind of flexibility is typical in large studio production where maintaining quality standard is prioritized over strict cost minimization. When comparing to the Moana 2 film to the other similar film, its budget appear consistent with other Disney and Pixar production. For example, the original Moana 2016 operated with a comparable range as do many animated sequels and franchise extension films such as Frozen 2. Another large scale animated feature have also fallen within or slightly above the above this bracket depending in their complexity and production timeline. This places Moana 2 within a well established financial model where investment is balanced against expected global reach and long term return. From a financial perspective, a production budget in this range typically requires substantial box office performance to achieve profitability, especially when accounting for bracket marketing and distribution costs. However, the advantage of an accounting for marketing and distribution costs, however, the advantage of an established franchise lie in its built-in audience and brand recognition, which can help mitigate financial risk. The studio familiarity with the word and character also follows for certain efficiencies such as reusing design framework or refining existing animation pipeline. Overall, the production budget of the film reflect a mature and strategic approach. It demonstrates a commitment to maintaining high production values while operating with the standard cost structure of modern animating filmmaking. By allocating resources across animation, talent, music, and development, the film positions itself as a technically polished and commercially viable project. The result is a budget that supports both creative ambition and financial sustainability, aligning with the broader practices of the animation industry. The domestic box office performance of the film can be understood with the context of the North American market, which remain one of the most important regions for evaluating a film's theatrical success. For a release of this scale from Walt Disney Animation Studios, domestic earnings are not only a measure of popularity but also an indicator of how well the films connect with its core audience base. In this region, Mona 2 generated um, for an audience trend perspective, the film performances reflect the continued strength of family and animation driven attendance. One notable trend is the reliance on group viewing, where families purchase multiple tickets, increasing overall revenue per showing. Additionally, repeat viewings are common for animated features, particularly among younger audiences who are drawn to familiar character and musical element. This pattern contribute to sustained box office performance beyond the opening weekend. Another important factor is the appeal to nostalgic viewer, including teenagers and young adults who grew up with the original Monum. This demographic often return to the theater out of curiosity and emotional attachment, adding a secondary layer of audience support. While children remain the primary target, the inclusion of older viewers help broaden the film's reach and stabilize its domestic earning over time. And compared to the similar films, the film Moana to perform in line with other major Disney animated sequels. Its domestic box office figures are comparable to the original Moana through adjustment for changes in the theatrical landscape, including the rise of streaming platform and shifting in viewing habits. In recent years, the domestic market has been fluctuation in theater attendance, with some audience preferring at home viewing options. Despite this, large scale animated release continue to draw significant crowd, particularly when supported by strong brand identity. In comparison to other Disney release, Moana to maintain a steady but not record breaking domestic performance. Films such as Frozen 2 achieve exceptionally high domestic number due to a broader cultural impact and widespread anticipation. In this film, while successfully operate within a slightly more moderate range, reflecting a balance between strong audience interest and the realities of a more competitive and diversified entertainment market. The film audience success is also influenced by its accessibility and rating, which make it suitable for all age group. This inclusivity allow it to capture a wide audience segment from young children to adult, maximizing its reach within the region. The absence of restrictive content ensure that it can be marketed broadly, further supporting its box office performance. Another aspect worth noting is the role of marketing and brand familiarity is also influenced by accessibility and rating. The film domestic success, which make it suitable for all age group. This inclusivity allow it to capture a wide audience segment from young children to adult, maximizing its reach within the region. The absence of restrictive content ensure that it can be marketed broadly, further supporting its box office performance. Another aspect worth noting is the role of marketing and brand familiarity. Disney promotional strategy, including trailer, music release, and merchandise, contribute significantly to audience awareness. By the time the film reaches theater, it already benefited from high visibility, which translated into strong opening numbers, sustained performances, then depend on word of mouth and audience reception, both of which play a key role in maintaining long-term domestic performance. Overall, the domestic box office performance of the film reflect a combination of consistent audience demand, effective branding, and favorable market positioning. It may not redefine box office record, it demonstrates the enduring strength of animated family films in North America. Its earning aligned with industry expectation for a sequel of this scale, confirming its position as a commercially successful entry with Disney animated portfolio. The international box office performance of the film play a crucial role in defining its overall commercial success, often exceeding domestic contribution in scale and reach. For global release from Walt Disney Animation Studios, international markets are not steady, they are central to the film's financial outcome. Animated films, particularly those with strong visual storytelling and universal theme, tend to travel well across culture and linguistic boundaries, and Mona too benefits significantly from this dynamic. Looking at dynamic region, the films perform strongly across key international territories such as Europe, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. In Europe, countries like the United Kingdom, France, and Germany typically provide stable return for Disney release. Those markets have a strong, long-standing appreciation for animated films, especially those that combine music, family-friendly content, and high production values. Their consistent performance in these regions reflect both the strength of the Disney brand and the accessibility of the film's theme. In Asia Pacific region, the results are more varied but still substantial. Markets such as Australia and New Zealand show particularly strong engagement, partially due to the film's national, cultural, and geographic resonance with Pacific Island theme. In contrast, markets like China and Japan may display more moderate performance influenced by local competition, release timing, and audience preferences. However, even in this competitive environment, visually rich animated feel films often maintain a baseline level of interest due to their universal appeal and emphasis on spectacle. Latin America represent another important region where Moana to perform well. Disney films traditionally enjoy strong support in countries such as Mexico and Brazil, where family-oriented entertainment draws large audience. The emotional tone, music, and vibrant visual contribute to a positive reception, making the film accessible even across language differences. Dubbing and localization effort play a key role here, ensuring that the film resonates with local audience while maintaining its original identity. From a market reception standpoint, the film benefited from its broad thematic accessibility. Unlike dialogue heavy dramas, animated features rely heavily on visual storytelling, which reduce barrier to understanding. This makes Moana 2 particularly effective in international market where audience may come from diverse linguistic background. The reception is generally positive, driven by appreciation for animation quality, music, and familiar character. However, as with many sequel, reception can vary depending on expectation. In some region, audience may compare it closely to the original film, influencing overall perception. Another key factor shaping international earning in marketing impact. Disney global marketing strategy also play a significant role in ensuring visibility across multiple regions. Campaigns are often localized with region specific promotion, dubbed trailer, and collaboration that align with local culture. Music release in particularly serve as a powerful promotional tool as songs can gain popularity independently of the film and attract wider attention. Merchandise and brand partnership often extend the film presence, creating a sense of familiarity before audience even enter the theater. Release timing is also a strategic element. International market strategic release schedule allow the studio to maximize exposure while avoiding direct competition with major local or international film. Holiday periods similar to the domestic market are especially important in driving attendance. Families are more likely to visit theater during these times, and animated films are well positioned to capture that audience. When compared to the similar film, it follows the established pattern of Disney animated feature where international earnings often surpass domestic tool. The international box office performance of the film is shaped by a combination of regional diversity, position, market reception, and effective global marketing strategy. Its ability to connect with audience across different cultures and languages highlight the strength of animated storytelling as a universal media. The film's international earning not only complements its dramatic success but also reinforces its position as a globally viable and commercially stable release within the modern film industry. The worldwide financial performance of the film can be understood by looking at how total global earnings relate to the cost required to produce, market, and distribute the film. Worldwide gross refer to the combined revenue from other regions including North America and international market from a large scale release from Walt Disney Animation Studios. This global total is especially important because animated films often rely heavily on audience outside their home market. The film reaches a worldwide gross in the range of over $1 billion, reflecting strong engagement across multiple regions. This level of performance indicates that the film connects with a broad global audience, including families, young viewer, and a fan of animated fantasy. International contribution is particularly significant as market in Europe, Asia Pacific, and Latin America at substantial revenue. The ability of animated film to cross language barriers through visual storytelling play a key role in expanding this global audience. As a result, the worldwide gross become a reflection of cumulative appeal rather than reliance on a single region. However, the profitability of the film can be evaluated by comparing its total revenue against its combined production, marketing, and distribution goal, while also considering the contribution of ancillary income stream. For a major release from Walt Disney Animation Studio, profitability is rarely determined by box office figure alone. Instead, it emerges from a broader financial ecosystem, starting with revenue versus cost. The film estimated production budget fall in the range of 150 to 180 million dollars. When global marketing and distribution expenses are added, the total investment likely rises to approximately 250 to 300 million dollar or more. Against this cost base, the film worldwide cost surpasses $1 billion, which on the surface indicates a strong financial outcome. However, it is important to account for the way box office revenue is shared with theaters, since studios typically receive only a portion of ticket sale, often around half domestically and less internationally. The actual return from the theatrical revenue is significantly lower than the total gross figure. Even with this revenue split, the film comfortably exceeds its estimated break-even point, which is generally accumulated at around 300 to 400 million dollars in global earning. The film is another important component of ancillary income. A musical film, Mona 2, benefit from the soundtrack scale and streaming, which extends its reach beyond cinema audience. Song can gain popularity independently, contributed to both direct revenue and a broader brand visibility. This integration of music into the financial model strengthen the film's long-term profitability. When considering return on investment, the film demonstrates a strong performance relatively to its cost. It is also worth noting that the film benefits from merchandise value, which add another layer to its profitability. As a sequel to an already successful party, it's built on an existing audience base, reducing marketing risk and the initial increasing demand. Audience reaction to this film reflect a mix of enthusiasm, familiarity, and mere expectation, shaped largely by demographic, view feedback pattern, overall engagement, and as a release from Walt Disney Animation Studio, the film entered the market with a built-in audience, which strongly influence how different groups respond to it. Among teenagers and young adult, reaction become more varied. This group often approaches the film with a sense of nostalgia, especially if they were familiar with the original. As a result of their feedback tend to include comparison in tone, impact, and memorability. While many appreciate the continuation of familiar world, others express more critical viewpoint, particularly regarding how the film meet or diverges from expectation. This demographic is also more active in online discussions, where opinions are shared and debated, contributed to a broad range of visible reaction. Looking at viewers' feedback, one noticeable trend is the appreciation for visual quality and production values. Audience frequently respond positively to the film's animation design and the overall presentation. These elements create an immediate impression and often serve as a common point of agreement across different viewers group. The film's tone is also generally described as warm and engaging, which support a positive baseline reaction. However, feedback is not uniformly enthusiastic. Some viewers express a sense of familiarity that broaden unpredictability. Now we talk about the genre comparison. Box office result also determine the film's position among other animated releases. A high grossing film is often grouped with top performing title, even if it's a critical standing different. This can evaluate its perceived importance within the animated genre, placing it alongside more influential or widely celebrated work. Conversely, films with low running may struggle to gain the same level of recognition. From a reviewer standpoint, film presents itself as a technically polished and emotionally steady continuation through art. Without its limitation in terms of cinematic quality, the film maintains a strong visual identity. The animation is refined, fluid, and immersive, particularly environmental design. There is a clear sense of craftsmanship and the overall presentation reflects the high standard associated with Walt Disney Animation Studio. However, visually impressive, the films rarely surpasses stylistically, often relying on established technique rather than pushing boundaries. Looking at production value, the film is undeniably strong. Every element from the sound design to the musical integration feels carefully constructed and cohesive. The music supports the tone effectively, even if it lack and the stand out memorability that evaluates some animated musicals into iconic territory. The overall production feel consistent, reliable, through perhaps slightly staining ambition. The performance, particularly from Auli'i, Caravola, and Diane Johnson, are solid and emotionally grounded. Cravalho brings maturity and calm strength, while Johnson provide charisma and balance. Their chemistry remain effective through it lean more toward familiarity than evaluation. Sporting vices contribute effectively, but few leave a lasting impression. In terms of theme, the film demonstrates a thoughtful approach focusing on responsibility, identity, and connection. These ideas are present with clarity and sincerity, making them accessible to a wide audience. However, the dramatic execution can feel somewhat avoiding deeper complexities in favor of broad relatability. When considering who should watch the film is best suited for viewers who appreciate emotionally grounding, visually rich storytelling rather than fast-paced or high-intensity narrative. Its appeal is strongest among family-oriented audience, particularly those looking for a shared viewing experience that balance entertainment with meaningful themes. In terms of age group, this movie is highly for the children and pre-teens. It is accessible tone, colorful animation, and clear emotional direction make it easy for younger viewer to engage it. At the same time, it extends comfortably to families and adults, especially those who value themes like responsibility, identity, and connection. The films offer enough emotional depth to keep older viewers interested even if its storytelling remains simple on the surface. Looking at audience type, fans of character driven stories will find the film more rewarding than those who prioritize action or complex plotting. It is particularly recommended for viewers who enjoy reflective, steady paced narrative with a strong emotional core. The film's style leaned toward warmth and sincerity, making it ideal for audience seeking a calm, uplifting experience rather than intense drama. From a genre preferences perspective, it is best suited for those who enjoy animated adventure, fantasy, and musical element. Viewers who appreciate visually immersive world in culturally inspired storytelling will likely connect with it more deeply. Its tone is consistent with the signature approach of Walt Disney Animation Studios, emphasizing accessibility, emotional clarity. On the other hand, the film may not appeal as strongly to viewers who prefer fast-paced action, darker themes, highly complex narrative. Those expecting a broader, dramatically different experience may find it somewhat familiar in style and execution. Overall, the film is best suited for audience seeking a visually engaging, emotionally gentle, and family-friendly experience rather than a highly intense or a predictable one.